Sattler Files.
Welcome to the Sattler Files. My name is Murray Korff, and joining me in the studio is retired Inspector Neil Royle. Welcome along, Neil.
How kind, Murray. Very kind to be here. It's good to acknowledge the fact that I'm actually sitting out here opposite you today, and it's good to see this.
Yes. We're
You're going to do it again.
in the streaming sunshine.
Yeah.
Very nice, isn't it?
This too.
Now, a few things happened. We talk about all sorts of things, not necessarily related to police and roads and all that sort of stuff. We talk about all sorts of interesting issues of the week, and one of the interesting issues this week for mine was the old Ben Cousins.
For old Ben, yep. He's in it again.
He's really doing it tough in lots of ways, isn't he? Why is he being picked on? I mean,
you're a media man of old. Is it newsworthy? Does it make copy? If he's standing out directing traffic, as they say he was, and all the rest of it, 7 police cars turn up?
Yeah.
Autograph hunting? So
it's a terribly sad thing, don't you think? I mean, he's obviously in the clutches of drug dealers. It has to be, doesn't it?
Yes, I think he has mental issues as well, poor fella. So
brought on probably by drugs, wouldn't you say?
And I really do wish they'd get off his case, and he needs help. I know he's probably his own worst enemy, but he does need help, and I wish they'd just leave him alone. He's been a superstar in the past. The Eagles and others all love him. He's on hard times. He really is, and it's not going to end that well. I wouldn't have thought.
Look, I don't think it's going to end well at all. These things never do.
No.
And that's the sad part about it. And look, somebody on television just recently made the remark about Ben Cousins, and obviously speaking in general, saying that, look, these guys have to want to be helped. They have to want to be helped. And do you think Ben wants to be helped? I mean, it's hard to...
Addiction is a strange thing, and people are addicted to various things, as you know.
Well, alcohol's
exactly
the same sort of thing, really, isn't it?
And people do fall off the wagon. He may well want help and so forth, and then something happens which, the same for alcoholism and gamblers and all the rest of it. There's something occurs, and back in they go again. He may want to be helped, but I'm not professional enough to know in that capacity what it is that he needs to do. But certainly he's got to get off the gear somehow or other. And someone once said some time ago, maybe he needs to be incarcerated for his own well-being. Not so much in a jail, but locked up someplace where he can't get the goodies.
It. Yeah,
because he's getting it. And it's getting to the stage now where the media around about roller coaster and fanfare. Yesterday afternoon, I was coming back from a lunch in the city, and I got as far as Parliament House on the southbound lanes of the freeway at about 3 o'clock, and it was all stopped. And it stayed stopped for a long time. And it came to pass that a semi-trailer had jackknifed on the Narrows Bridge, and I'll talk about that later on, about the conduct of drivers in that situation. But, there was comments being made, and some bloke yelled out at me and said, it's probably Ben Cousins up there directing traffic. So they're all jumping on this.
Everybody's
on this
got
bandwagon.
Yeah, and that's terribly sad. But the problem that I have with all of this is that everybody who gets hooked on drugs, it's a terrible waste of a life.
Yep.
But it's even more of a waste of a life when you have somebody with the talent that man had in terms of his football and the support that he's had of his family, and yet here we are years on, and it's still happening.
Yep.
And I'm sure that happens to regular people,
Well, and right in what you say, the world was certainly his oyster. Even when his footy time had finished, there was all sorts of doors waiting to be opened for him.
Yes.
As far as either coaching or presentation or media and so forth. He's very personable.
Yeah, and a pretty good looking rooster.
Absolutely,
as well.
yeah. And he I've interviewed him a couple of times, and I've spoken to him a number of times about various things. But there's no getting away from the fact he was doing drugs at high school. Light stuff, yes. But it's just they graduate and they progress to the heavy. And where are we now? Interesting, you've got the Eagles Football Club saying things in recent times like we'd give back our 2006 Premiership Cup if we could cure Benny and save Benny from the pit. Yeah, Augusta would do that as well. Yeah, and they wouldn't have known, of course.
No, of course not.
And the others that were involved in it. I think Carl Langdon's currently doing his bit in the press about when he was at the Eagles. He knew that they were all on it. not all of them, but lots of them.
Yeah.
And he will name names and say, well, he knew it. And that's at the time that he was there. And it always makes me wonder about with the number of players that have fallen by the wayside because of that situation. And Ben is certainly the most high-profile one. You probably wonder why when you have the coach who was a trained chemist not pick up on one or two of these things.
Of course he would have.
Yeah, spare me. And they won't give back anything.
Of course they won't.
No, I'll give it back if Ben gets back on the rails. No, Ben's no good to them anymore. They couldn't care less.
No, of course they couldn't. And there's been calls for the AFL to get involved and support him and do all of that sort of thing. But look, I don't think that it's a lack of support for him. I think he's had an awful lot of that. And I think that there's something else going on. You know, he's had the most supportive family. I felt so sorry for his father. On so many occasions, he's fronted up to television and, you know, sort of said that they're going to support Ben and we're trying to get him out of it. And he's been there for him and he's had all the support in the world. I don't think that's the issue.
Well, when it came to when you've got to speak about support, that's usually the last measure, because before that's been the cover-up of some kind or other, and there's tolerance and there's blind eye and all that sort of stuff that we were talking about. Then you come to the support stuff when it's out there and everyone knows about it. So then you think, well, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Ben Cousins said to me that he never ever played football with drugs in him, but he trained it out of him. And he said from time to time I had to go and stop and go and throw up because I would train it out of me so that I was clean and fit and U-boot and sparkling. Well, that it may well be, but I mean, and I try not to be cynical, but it's in my blood. It's been 40 years worth of being cynical about people and not necessarily believing every word they say.
Yeah.
So when you see the footage of I think it was the 2006 grand final where you got Judd standing on one side of the trophy, Worsfold's on the other side, and Cousins come to take Worsfold's side off him and doing all this whooping and waving and whooping and waving, whooping, waving. I mean, he looked like he was 2 foot off the ground to me at the time.
Yes, yeah, he certainly
and
did.
when you consider players like Judd and so forth left the club, they won't say absolutely why, but he's left the club, and it's been suggested because of he didn't like the culture. Well, culture is a good word to use because it covers a multitude of everything. So otherwise a player like Judd would have been a lifetime player at the Eagles.
I would have thought so,
a statue outside Subiaco Oval toward him because they loved him. Loved him. Yep. So, and there are others who, Richmond took Cousins on when they, he's turned the corner, he's going to do this, going to do that. And then we'll drug test him on a regular basis, and we'll do it the easiest possible way by taking a clip of his hair, which is what they do. So what does he do? He goes and gets a crew cut. So is that perhaps it's because it's easier to run, or perhaps he wanted to dodge the issue? Who knows?
Yeah, I think there's all sorts of things that could have gone on, and unfortunately Ben is, I think, like a lot of people who get on this stuff, it's so hard to get off it.
Absolutely.
I feel sorry for him, and I just wish the media would leave him alone.
Yeah, I do too. They've had their time with him, and I'm sick and tired of seeing footage of 2007. How many years ago is that? Of that sort of stuff there.
Yeah.
And that they recycle and regurgitate this stuff every time because they all love seeing Ben with such as live written across him. They all look at that and then running across rooftops and doing something else. And even that stuff there, just all blurry footage.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be me. Only I couldn't run across a rooftop.
I was going to say, could you run that fast?
No, probably. I outrun most of those coppers because they get that much crud hanging off them these days.
That's right. We'll talk about that in a minute too.
Yes, indeed. I do. And get off his case. Get off his case. Give this guy. It's not going to be that flash for him. It's not going to end well, I don't think. But get off his case.
Yep. We don't want to be going to his funeral. We've already done that with one Eagle, Chris Mainwaring, haven't we?
Yep, indeed.
And that was very sad.
Yep.
Let's move on to something a little bit lighter and talk about people in emergency situations when trucks jackknife and leave chemicals all over the road. Now, let's just deal with the truck driver jackknifing his truck for just a minute.
This is yesterday, 3 o'clock thereabouts.
Something like that.
Yes, yeah, it was wet. It was wet.
It was wet, and this thing was. I don't know whether was he carrying diesel in his truck.
I think they said chemicals.
Chemicals,
because it's supposed to be when I first heard it was fuel, but then the news reported that was chemicals, which caused more concern because it's not just fuel; it is other things as well. So, and the jackknife vehicle. 3 lanes, I think, thereabouts on the southbound carriageways.
Yeah. So everybody's jammed up, and I'd have turned the engine off and got on the back seat and had a snooze, but I was not supposed to be allowed to do that. but lots of people were going into the emergency lane.
I know. I'm sitting there because I'm outside Parliament House.
Because you were in this,
I was
weren't
in
you?
it. And I thought, there you go. So we stopped. And it's not really a good sign when you stop there because generally it's slow there in any case.
That's
but
right.
you stopped. And after about...
And there's not even a sign of movement.
Nothing's happening. And I'm looking up and I can't see anything happening. And I'm stopped. And 5 minutes goes past and 10 minutes goes past. And that's all it takes. That's when the trigger happens for these others to go, I'm not staying here any longer. There's nowhere to go, but I'm not staying here any longer. So suddenly indicators come on and cars start cranking up their power steering to right angles to you. That I'm coming across, let me in and say, well, where are you going to go? There's a wall over there. But there's a little pink bit there that's called the emergency lane. Yeah. And guess what? They're all aiming for that. And in they go. So you got one sort and sneak down there and that's a good idea. So then about another 50 decide to do it as well of various sides. Then that gets blocked because they can't all fit in there because others in the other lanes are trying to get in as well. So you've got this main roads maths, which is 4 into 1 don't go, and they're all just funneled together. Then
main roads maths.
And then you have this, la, 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 hello, and here comes some cops on motorbikes. Yeah. They're all right. They in a rock and a hard place because they can see these guys doing this, but they need to get to the incident.
Yes.
So they're ferreting down between the cars. Then comes along the ambulance. I was going to say guts truck. That's not very nice. So the ambulance comes along. No, and he can't get through either. Then the fireys. I thought, this is really good. That's about 20 minutes now I've been sitting here watching all this. And then the fireys are coming along, bop, doop, bop, and they can't get through either. Because guess what? The lane they're supposed to use as an emergency stopping lane that it is also for access for emergency vehicles. It's blocked with cars, isn't it?
Well, that's what the emergency lane is for, isn't it?
It's an emergency stopping lane. That's what it is.
So if your car breaks down, you go to that so you don't upset the traffic. But in a situation like that, you're not supposed to use it as an exit.
And if a car breaks down in that, it's be monitored on main roads. If you've been to the main roads ops room in Newcastle Street with their 460 cameras they've got there, they see every inch of everything and they send a recovery vehicle straight away and get rid of it.
Yeah. So it is an offence, isn't it, to do that?
Absolutely.
And it'll cost you money.
Well, you can't do anything in the emergency stopping lane other than stop an emergency. And for example, stopping there because you want to make a phone call, that don't cut it.
No,
because it's not an emergency. You're making a phone call and you actually parked on the freeway and you get a ticket for that. Yeah. So no, you can't do it. You can't stop there and read your road guide because you're lost. Even though people do. And people are semi-tolerant to that if there's one car in there. But in situations like this where they're all going to use that as another lane because I'm not going to sit in this traffic jam ananymore, and off they go. As it happens, the police stopped southbound on the Narrows. I got a first-hand view of Elizabeth Quay, hadn't been there before, but I was there with other 98,000 people who were like, oh, it's very nice over here, and then fight my way across the Causeway and fight my way, and there you go. So an hour and a half later, I get home. But it is infuriating when the people who know the rules and abide by the rules, and you're all stuck in a traffic jam, you're stuck. Yeah, you're stuck.
You can't go anywhere.
No, you just don't. Oh, I'm going to have that lane there. I don't care. I'm going to do that. And, of course,
terribly self-centred and selfish, isn't it?
It is too, and it's you're just amazed, and there's still the sheep syndrome out there. Like, oh, he's doing that. Well, and someone saying, well, he's doing it, Arthur. You do it. Get over there as well. I'm not sitting here all night. I've got a roast on, and all this sort of stuff. So out they go and jump in the lane, and they're all sitting there waiting for me in Vic Park anyway.
That's right.
They were, and didn't get a ticket because the cop's too busy to pinch them, unfortunately. If I didn't book, I would have got a few.
Yeah.
I would have gone on foot and got some.
Oh,
never mind. Yeah. And it must be frustrating too for the emergency vehicles because they can't get through.
The point that I was going to make was if somebody had lost a life because the emergency lane was blocked, how would you feel about that?
Well, if the truck had burst into flames and then you've got the fireys can't get through,
well,
what are you going to do? Oh, yeah, tell you, because these dumpies are in the other lane.
So the rule is if you get stuck in a traffic jam like that, you do not use the emergency lane. You leave that for the police, fire, emergency services and ambulance and anybody else that has to get to the site of what's happened.
Unless one of those guys, the coppers, come along and say, everybody down the emergency lane. Yeah. If they direct you down there, off you go. Yeah. Otherwise, keep out of it. Yeah. Keep out and give everybody else a fighting chance. They're trying to get there and do their bit. So have it. We're stuck, you're stuck. And you're going to sit there for a little while there. And as you say, you might want to turn your motor off. You might want to turn commercial radio on. and have a bit of a listen. They say, yes, it's whatever it is. You think, well,
you can at least find out what's going on.
I'm now going to leave my car here and go in town, get a burger and come back again. Don't do that either. Don't do that either.
It might still be there.
That's right. And there'll be those waiting for you to see if you've got onions or not. We'll be waiting for you. Don't worry about that.
And, of course, one of the things that came out, and I've seen it on television, was that apparently the reason for this car, beg your pardon, the semi-trailer jackknifing, was that some car cut in front of him and he had to take evasive action. And, of course, the road being wet, he's lost traction on things and the whole thing's gone to hell in a handbag. I just don't know whether or not he had any cameras on board, but it would have been interesting to see that. But the police do, don't they? There's quite a story about that. The police carry... They've got body cameras, haven't they?
They do.
Do they have them in the cars now?
They have got cameras there which are linked to lights and sirens.
Oh, okay.
So that when they're on patrol, and as soon as they engage lights or sirens, which puts them into emergency capacity or urgent duty driving capacity, the camera starts recording. As a matter of fact, it backtracks 30 seconds to prior to you pushing. When you push the button to activate with sirens and lights, it'll record the 30 seconds prior to, because it's recording all the time, but just not.
It doesn't keep it.
That's right. Yeah, it keeps it 30 seconds leading up to the incident, so that when it comes to evidence time in court, I said this guy overtaken double white lines, on come lights and sirens, to do it, film. But that's only for lights and siren stuff. The union last week wrote to the commissioner to ask him to install dash cameras on a full-time basis in all police cars. The logic behind it all, and it's pretty straightforward logic, it's actually a bit of a no-brainer, records evidence of what's taking place in the police car all the time. It records evidence of what the car driver is seeing and what's being filmed. It also records the demeanour of the officer talking to the person who stopped. It shows also the reaction of the person there, and all those sorts of good things there. So A, it accumulates evidence. B, it's there and the police are keenly aware that it's on, so they too are being polite and doing their job professionally, as they're supposed to. Yeah. And of course, they'd be up front and saying, "Good morning, I'm Constable so and so. Our actions are being filmed by that car right there." So then the baddie knows that he's on Cape as well. So it's all those things are there, and most of the states in Australia use them. This is the only state that doesn't.
I find that extraordinary. When you told me about that off air, and I find that just absolutely unbelievable. Well,
you find it's unbelievable as well. In 1999, when you were still in high school, I was an inspector at Mandurah Police Station, attached to the Bunbury District. John Watson was the superintendent at Bunbury, and he was always full of good ideas, Watto, and he said, we should get cameras and put them in the car. So he fronted up to Roadwise, which was a local fund committee, and we put a plod to them. We put 2 in-car video systems in 2 patrol cars in Mandurah, a plain car and a marked car. Roadwise funded them $2,200 each. Black and white. They were lipstick cameras, called lipstick. They were shaped like a lipstick. They went onto the tube. They were low lux.
So good in low light.
Absolutely. And black and white. And it was an event recorder. So what happened was when the cops were driving along and something happened, either the passenger or the driver would push the button on the dashboard and it would record. So we'd put him in the cars, and word got out to headquarters we'd done this, and they called up there and gave us a big rapping and said, "Don't you dare! Has this been through the committee? Has this been through the project? Has it? No." So go away and put up a business case submission, and we'll think about it. Yeah. So
this is back in 1999. We've got to remember. Yep.
So me being low man on the totem pole, the superintendent says to me, "Royle, go and put up a business case submission." I'm doing it. So off I go, put it up there, and to cut a long story short, the police department decided to support a pilot program which ran from September 1999 to September 2000 on these 2 cars in Mandurah. During that time, we accumulated as much anecdotal evidence as we could, and things, for example, someone crossing double white lines, for example, the cops pull up and say, "I just saw you crossing double white line." "No, I didn't." "Step back to the car for a moment, would you?" Say, "Oh, okay," and plead guilty on the footpath. Yes. Lawyers, they come to the police station to view footage before the pleas of not guilty are entered and so forth. They come and look at, hang on, oops. And there's loads of it, and good stuff too. The police are doing all the right things. It was an event recorder that only came on when you push the button. Strangely enough, if my memory serves me correctly, the union at the time, and bearing in mind there's the union now pushing for this at the minute.
Yeah.
At the time, the union said it shouldn't be an event recorder. When you put your key in the ignition and turn the ignition on and the car starts, the camera comes on and it stays on until you turn it off.
Oh, so you'd get spied going into McDonald's for your burgers.
Well, and that's you went and visited Auntie Mame or somebody or other, or you went and did your shopping or whatever it is. It's being filmed. And guess who didn't like that? The cops didn't like that. The blokes driving the cars didn't like that.
Yeah.
And it was pushed along that line. And so from time to time, on a regular basis, these cameras wouldn't work. So I was forever fixing them and getting them fixed and putting back wires that had been pulled out or fallen out or all that sort of stuff there, because it wasn't working that well as far as the boys go. And when you consider the film itself, the canister films, was in the boot in a bulletproof, waterproof, bomb-proof, fireproof container. It was there so that anything unforeseen happened in this case of a shoot or something or other, all the footage is there. So at the end of the day, after the 1 year, Superintendent Watson and myself went up to Service Command in headquarters. We did a presentation which lasted a day and a half, three-quarters of a day and a quarter of a day. So a whole day's worth of presentation and all the footage and so forth to the Service Command people. That's the hierarchy in the police. At the end of the day, I said, very, very nice. Take them out of the cars immediately, store them. The project is now over. Finished.
Goodness me.
That was in 2000 and hasn't seen the light of day since.
How extraordinary.
So, I just, I don't know if anybody got selected memories up there, but mine's not selected, but I remember it. And I was dope enough, of course, to keep all my documentation on it.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what the situation is and what I went for. And people who had used it for the year and seen the results of it walk around shaking their heads because they couldn't understand why. As a matter of fact, Channel 7 came in on board and said, we'll fund the fitting of all cameras in all police cars if we get first dibs on the footage after the police are finished with it. That's why they saw what a winner it was.
Of course they did, that's why they're the number one television station in Perth.
And it just went, matter of fact, I couldn't believe it when they said, it's a great presentation, it really is good, they're very impressive. We want you to remove those from the cars now and store them at Mandurah Police Station and they're not to be used. Boom, finish. So I just walked around small circles for a while and went downstairs and went back to Mandurah again and waited until 2016 when someone said, it'd be a good idea.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Is it? It's marvellous.
But I can see in the foreseeable future where all cars and trucks and all motor vehicles will have dash cameras on there. I really can, because it's just the insurance companies love it.
Of course they do. They ask, have you got any? First thing they say, even when it comes to break-ins in your house and so forth, the first thing the insurance company says, you got any CCTV footage?
Yeah.
The first thing they say. What does the police department push all the time now? They push people to put dash cams in their own cars.
They do.
To make the evidence gathering for them easier.
Yeah.
And yet when it comes to police cars, I don't know about that.
It makes no sense. It's a contradiction, isn't it? It really is.
It is a bit. Is it again a reflection on what the drivers of the cars want? Is there some concerns there, or is this too much Big Brother, or is it? But it's well, one would expect when you got the badge on and you're sworn to uphold the law and so forth and do the rest, the protection of life and property and so forth. Who cares who's monitoring what? One would hope everybody's monitoring what you're doing.
Yeah,
to make sure you do stay above board and squeaky clean and new butte.
Yeah. And and beyond anything.
Exactly. And there's enough baddies out there to say the coppers did this, and this. Well, hang on, here it is on film. Someone's telling fibs. And and credibility of witnesses and so forth is it comes up and all, and it's just, and I use the term again, it is a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer in 1999, and it still is.
Yeah, well, of course it is. And look, how many times have we seen in recent times CCTV identifying bad people? I mean, there was that case of that lady that was going around following delivery vans and taking Christmas presents.
Last night,
not only did they get her, but they got the license plate on the vehicle.
Exactly.
And I mean, what can be better than that?
No, it wasn't me. Looks like you.
That's right. Walks like you.
Yeah. Same number plate as your car. It might be you. On last night's news, that's a copper in America. He's filmed from his own car. How dumb he is. He's filmed from his own car stopping somebody, a black person, as it happens, because that was all the thrust of the story was. He stops this guy and says, "Get out of the car, get out of the car." And the black guy says, "Nah." So the cop is off to the side on the passenger side window. The baddie turns his wheel the other way and drives around him. As he drives away, copper goes ba-bang, bang, ba-bang, bang, bang 7 times. So he hasn't got a 6-shooter. He got himself a real big 13-round magazine 7 times into the car and hits the driver once. So I'd put him
back to the shooting range with you.
I'd say so. And then his defence to the internal people was, he tried to run me over. Tried to run me down, save my life. Bang, 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 bang. So then they view the footage, as we all did watching the news last night. The guy is going past him and he's shooting through the passenger window at him as he's, no, sorry. Oh. So guess what's happened to him?
He probably doesn't have a job now.
Oh, no. He's gone for retraining.
No.
Yeah, if you're going to shoot straight. Unbelievable. And you can imagine all the Rodney King people and all the rest of them over there are just waiting because if he put 7 holes in this kid and he died, it come to pass the baddie had illegal firearms in the vehicle and things and other things why you don't want to stop. But if you need to shoot to protect yourself, shoot to protect yourself. But don't say he was trying to run me down when he's going across. That's right. Across in front, and he steered the other way. Actually, he steered around him to get away from him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Reminds me of that very tasteless joke about this. It was a police officer who shot a person 7 times, like your man, and they said to him, "Why'd you shoot him 7 times?" Well, that's all the bullets I had. Okay, moving right along.
Moving right along.
Now, the police now do have body cameras, don't they?
Yep.
Or is it universal or only some?
I think it's a pilot program. I think some have got it. Yep. I think they were hat cams or they were chest cams or they were body cameras of some kind anyway.
Do you see that as being the norm in times ahead?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, once again, it's about the evidence thing, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Cops have been accused of violence and not reacting properly and all that sort of stuff. That must surely help them.
Well, it saved a couple in Skyworks in recent years, I believe, where
Did it?
They were going into a fight, and because they're walking into the fight, they can see the boys fighting on the foreshore, so they turn their cameras on, and as they get there, you see this smash, and someone gets hit with a bottle, and then there's wrestling and fighting and grabbing, and some woman gets involved, and she says that the piece was this, and this, and either the camera justified what the police did or justifies and proved what she said, but whichever way it went, it was evidence that was there. And so you had a situation there where she's saying so-and-so, the cops are saying so-and-so, and right in between is what actually happened because it's on footage.
Okay.
So that's gold. It really is. It really is.
Must be,
so it makes the coppers think twice. And I know in the actions of the moment and being in pub fights and other things isn't that flash because you're not too sure what's happening. But you do need to recollect as best you can. And if you've done something which is a bit iffy, don't try and justify it by telling a fib of some kind because that's where. And again, I get back to perhaps the police in some situations don't like this. Perhaps.
Well, there's the possibility of that.
Cameras in lockups, been there for a long time. But there's been situations where the police have taken baddies away from the view of the camera and you hear, whack, ow. And then...
Oh, no, it wasn't us.
When it comes to, what happened then? Oh, no, I think you fell over, did you? Because it's not... come with me around the corner away from the camera. Yeah. So a good investigator is going to say, why would you not interview him in view of the camera?
Yeah.
No, because you want to ask him a question you didn't want to answer and you wanted the answer to it. And so all those things there, it exposes dumb things that cops do, and rightly so. If they're doing dumb things which are unlawful, they need to be exposed.
Indeed, they do.
And that's why that you can't interview a person now for evidentiary stuff now unless it's on video. So that you can the camera and the courts and everybody else can see what this person's saying, the facial expressions and what questions are being asked and how they're responding and what they're saying and so forth. And every police station's got a video interview room. Every police station.
Is that right? Yeah.
Every one. First thing they put in.
Amazing. And just to, we're going to finish off with one other thing about masked rioters because there was a bit of that on the weekend. But 1999, when you thought I was in high school, Right.
Disbeam was.
I was actually running the radio stations down in Mandurah, so you and I worked in the same town at the same time.
Get away.
I was.
Oh, we're going to talk about radio then. You missed a good chance then.
6MM and 97.3 Coast FM.
Oh.
Yes, I was looking after those for about a year and a bit. And, so there you go. So I wasn't in high school.
Oh. You're a cadet on a radio station. Good boy.
I was learning to be a pronouncer.
Good work.
That's it. I saw in the news there's, over the weekend there was riots, racial riots and all sorts of things. And now they're trying to bring in or want to bring in legislation to make the punishment for wearing a mask or a facial covering punishable by a lot of time in jail.
There is misdemeanor laws now in place in this state, I believe, for wearing disguises and masks and things,
Okay.
I haven't seen they were heavy on it some years ago, but then with full-face helmets and with people wearing things to stop bugs getting in their face, and then you wear a balaclava because it's freezing cold, etc., ski masks and the rest of it there. It's probably still there on the statutes about wearing a mask and disguising your appearance. But I think within the criminal code, I think it is, but I can't remember. But I've never ever seen, because they tried very heavily with bikies.
Yes, they did
to do that to invoke that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And certainly when they're interviewing bikies and others, obviously you can't be interviewed wearing a gorilla mask. No. So they say take that off.
Yeah.
Take your helmet off too, etc., and all those sorts of things. But I think it was there to curtail those who want to step a pantyhose over your head and step into the TAB and think, this is a bit out of place. Why is it? And that's what it's for, that sort of stuff there. So obviously for nefarious activities and the like.
Riots in the street.
And you're there to disguise your appearance. You don't want to be identified.
Don't want to be identified, and that's what I think that's where it's coming from.
Yep,
because
absolutely.
There was some pretty ugly stuff.
Yep.
This racial stuff is now starting to get out of hand a little bit, but I'd like to see it because I think it's terrible. If you've got a cause and you want to protest about it, then show your face. Otherwise, don't bother.
Yep. And there's plenty of protection, as you would see in the nightly news every night of the week. That's what pixels are for.
Yes.
They can pixel you out of there, can't they?
They can if they want to.
They can do whatever they want to do, pixel you in, pixel you out, or whatever they want to do. So, and I agree, because I would be deeply suspicious of any alleged lawful protest that takes place, and the bods turn up and you can't see anything of them other than little slits where their eyes are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes can't even see that because they put goggles on as well.
Yeah.
So I'd be concerned. I'd be concerned, and I would want to verify the bona fides of that person. So let's make sure there's some legislation in place so you can do that.
Absolutely. Neil, it's been fun.
We haven't said much, but we got going again as usual.
We did indeed.
There's plenty of things that happen and plenty of things that are of interest, be it law and order or be it other things. There are still things that impact upon people's minds and make people think about what's going on in the community, and we just want to talk about it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for putting your views forward, and we'll look forward to catching up again real soon.
I'd say same time next week.
I'd say so.
That'll be the plan.
More on the Sattler Files very shortly.
This is the Sattler Files.